The California governor's race has been full of surprises. Eric Swalwell, who was leading in the polls, is now the former candidate most likely to go to prison for rape. Xavier Becerra, former Attorney General of California and former House member, got the biggest bounce in the polls from Swalwell's exit. Now, Becerra was polling at 3 or 4% before. Now he's polling as the leader in some polls. Now, one poll even has him at 23%. Now, that's a bigger lead than the two Republicans, Steve Hilton at 17%, Chad Bianco at 14%. So if we combine the Republicans' polling, that's 31%. Now, needless to say, 31% isn't going to win the general election. The Republicans didn't get any type of a bounce from Swalwell's rape allegations, but that could change. Now, during the debate this week, neither Republican called out their competitors about Eric Swalwell. Now, there are 2 more debates scheduled for the next 2 weeks. Now, on April 28th and May 5th. Then a full month of no debates, then the primary election on June 2nd. So that gives the Republicans plenty of time and opportunity on stage and before the cameras to pound their competitors regarding Eric Swalwell. Now, at this stage, Xavier Becerra got the bounce from Swalwell's exit, even though Becerra saw the signs of Swalwell's sex abuse. He admitted it. Now, let's listen to Becerra's lukewarm take on Eric Swalwell.
Mr. Becerra, you were chair of the Democratic caucus when Eric Swalwell was elected to Congress. You said in a recent interview that, quote, many of us heard the rumors. What rumors did you hear? And should you have pursued the rumors as a member of Democratic leadership? You have 60 seconds.
Thanks, Nikki. Yeah, you hear rumors all the time about all sorts of things. Rumors are not facts, and the caucus, the Democratic caucus, is not a place that adjudicates those things. It's law enforcement that does. If someone had come forward, we could then have investigations. I say that as the former Attorney General for the state of California. When I was Attorney General, we did go after sex trafficking. We did go after those who abuse of young women and take advantage of them. We did prosecute people. There was an individual who was a religious leader who was taking advantage of young women. We prosecuted that individual. Today, he is in jail for his crimes. We have gone after people, but we go after them based on evidence and based on facts. Unfortunately, we have a president today who would go after someone based on rumors. That's not the way we do it in America. We have to have the facts. Rumors are one thing, but getting the facts really gets you to move. And let me just applaud those courageous survivors who stood up and told America what the truth was. And today, Eric Swalwell was facing accountability.
Now, his answer, in my view, is weak. The House leadership could have launched an ethics investigation against Swalwell then. I believe I also heard him say, innocent until proven guilty, but I would expect to hear that from Eric Swalwell's lawyer. Now, what is he representing Eric Swalwell now? What about the power imbalance in the U.S. Congress that kept young victims and staffers, his employees, silent? Becerra doesn't get that at all. And this guy got the bounce from Swalwell's exit. I'm offended by this type of bounce. Now, the next debate is Tuesday, April 28th. Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco could hit the Democrats hard on Eric Swalwell to try to move beyond that 31% combined polling, which isn't going to win the general election, as I mentioned. And they might not even get past the jungle primary on June 2nd because the Democrats will have consolidated around Xavier Becerra and Tom Steyer by then. Now, Becerra seems to be weak on Swalwell. He heard the rumors and didn't investigate further. No ethics investigation in the House, although he was part of the leadership. Now, he talked about the courage of Swalwell's victims in coming forward, so he gets that part. He knows how monumentally difficult it is to challenge an abuse of power that degrades the fabric of our society and destroys the lives of so many victims. So he gets that part, but that part only. Overall, Becerra is weak on Swalwell. Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco could pounce on Becerra's weakness during the next 2 debates. Now, Eric Swalwell's depravity was exposed at just this moment because society needs massive change on the issue of sex abuse. Now, it's one of those pervasive sins that could destroy society if we continue to tolerate it and look the other way. And this is a moment not just for Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco, but a Democrat without ties to Swalwell could potentially seize the moment. But then maybe all Democrats were close to Swalwell and saw the signs but didn't do anything about it. Now, do people like that deserve to be California governor? And what about Gavin Newsom? Now, surely he knew Swalwell. There's no reason why any politician who knew about Swalwell, and at this point there seems to be a huge number of them, there's no reason why any of them should expect to win the presidency in 2028, let alone be California governor. Swalwell was the biggest news story of the past several weeks, and there was scarcely a mention of it during the first debate. Now, the only mention of it is the video clip that I played of Xavier Becerra, but there were post-debate interviews in the spin room. I didn't watch all of those interviews, but here's a clip of Katie Porter talking about Swalwell post-debate.
Of course, with Eric Swalwell, I mean, that's what a lot of people have been focusing on. But I remember you and I have spoken about a matter of the videos that came out. Mm-hmm. The fact that that keeps coming up, is that frustrating to you, number one? And number two, what's your message to Californians just about who you are and what you want them to know about how you would lead and treat your staff?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always happy to answer questions. I think that's mark of a leader, and I'm always going to take responsibility when I fall short, and I did that on day one. But look, anybody who's trying to draw an analogy between Eric Swalwell's sexual assault on multiple women and somebody who got short with a staffer 4 years ago and apologized promptly, I don't think that's a fair comparison. I think that reflects some of the same misogyny and sexism that allowed Eric Swalwell to abuse those women in the first place. And I think this is a time for women to speak up and women to lead.
Now, there she was forced to explain herself yet again because last year she was caught on video yelling at a staffer who inadvertently photobombed Porter while she was recording a video message. And she went viral for yelling at the staffer. Now, social media labeled her a Karen, but she apologized to the staffer that same day, as she mentioned there, and they went on to work together for 4 years. Now, here's Katie Porter talking about that during the debate.
Ms. Porter, you've acknowledged that your interactions with an aide and with a reporter captured on videos which went viral were, in your words, a bad look, and that you could have done better. What have you done to address those concerns? And as a person who frequently speaks about being a parent on the campaign trail, what would you tell your own kids if they ever faced a boss like that? You have 60 seconds.
I apologized that day to that staffer 4 years ago. And I took responsibility then, and I have taken responsibility since, acknowledging that it was not the right way to treat someone. And that is a big contrast to what we have seen other candidates do when they have been called out for misconduct. I'm proud that that staffer in that video and I continued to work together for 4 years following that incident, and it speaks to how I addressed it. I work hard with my team to deliver for Californians, things like free COVID testing in the first weeks of the pandemic, things like cracking down on pharmaceutical price gouging, calling out a bank CEO for the fact that their employees couldn't pay for housing. All of my accomplishments have come from my team, and I would say that if somebody is treating you rudely, you should speak up. And that's what I would want my children to do, and that's what I did when I was being pushed again and again and again to kowtow, to give in and defend Donald Trump when he was engaged in despicable actions. I wasn't going to do that for that reporter, and I will not do it as governor.
Now, during the next two debates, Katie Porter might be called out for her proximity to Swalwell. Their terms in Congress overlapped. In my view, Swalwell's misconduct is on a different order of magnitude than Katie Porter yelling at a staffer. Now, what I would like to hear at the next debate is whether Katie Porter heard rumors about Swalwell. If it turns out she did and ignored it, it would be such a shame, okay? Because in my view, she's a quality candidate. Now, her viral moment yelling at the staffer, in my view, is not disqualifying per se because she and the staffer worked through it. They continued to work together for 4 years. But if she knew about Swalwell and couldn't be bothered to alert the leadership, now that type of behavior would be disqualifying, in my view. Now, I'm looking forward to the next debates. But who won this debate? Katie Porter. Now, she has the charisma. The rest of the debates and the next few weeks of campaigning should be geared toward establishing that she didn't behave irresponsibly with regard to reporting Eric Swalwell, okay? Because public employees at the state level often have mandatory reporting obligations for child abuse and sex abuse, for example. We should expect no less from members of Congress. Now, if she comes through all of that scrutiny, Katie Porter could win. She could be the next governor of California, and then, guess what? She could become president. She's in her early 50s now. She's always projected an air of seriousness rather than acting crazy on social media just for clicks. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.